Advanced philosophy memes. We have made good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Basic fucking memes. Advanced philosophy memes. We have made good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Basic fucking memes. Shoutouts to Aquarius, Deacon, my boy Scott, Pedro, and everyone else that engages on my posts. And Sarah, keep it up, man. You'll get there someday. And everyone else for playing games.
All right, go.
So I hope my son doesn't hear this because I'm coming to you live from my house office for the first time.
Someday
but
he will.
Mortal-
I'm gonna like send him this.
Well, he's in the
He's
he's behind the closed door and behind another closed door in his room right next to here. But Mortal Kombat changed my life. And when I was 5 years old, I would sneak over and like, don't tell my son, don't tell my, But so there's these kids like, and we didn't even really like them very much. We liked that they had Mortal Kombat, and I would sneak over their house. I'd be like, oh, I just love those kids. I just like hanging out with them. They're only around the corner. And I go over there and Mortal Kombat, Raiden, Sub-Zero, Scorpion. Like, and they made the rating system like right then because of that game. So nowadays, like, I kind of hope. So the point is, I hope my son gets to have an experience like that at 5, because we're going to be keeping him away from crazy stuff. But video games have come so much further in gruesomeness and detail. Like Mortal Kombat, looking back, it was amazingly like violent back then. But now
yeah,
it's
it was
like,
pretty good. Nothing, yeah. But at the time, there was blood and stuff like that. I remember my cousins playing Mortal Kombat, and my cousin, my older cousin, was playing as Katana or Melina. I think it was Katana. And my younger cousin was playing as Kano. And basically, he beat him as, like the older. I think that's right. Anyway, one of my cousins just started yelling to his mom. He's like, "Mom, like Jamie just beat up a girl," because like he hit a girl in the game. And then she was like, "You're grounded." And it was like, and then he was like, and then they started punching each other in real life. And I was like, "Yeah, dude, like real life graphics, basically. You gotta be careful about Mortal Kombat." But they always destroyed their controllers because like Mortal Kombat, they got aggressive. And I remember coming to their house like a week or a month later, and just like they couldn't play video games until they got new controllers because they completely just destroyed them. It's like out of aggression. I never destroyed a controller before. I mean,
did they play it on
toggle switch on a PlayStation 4 one time, but that doesn't count.
Dude, I never understood kids like that, and kids that would throw their controllers and break them and stuff like that.
Totally.
Like, I would
Spoiled
get
little
mad
brats.
sometimes. I would almost throw it. I'd want to so bad, and I would show the controller like I could have just thrown you.
No,
but I didn't.
The best, when I go to a friend's
Rich
house to
little
play video games, it's like it's so awkward when you go to those houses where the kid just screams at the mom for like the littlest things, like, "Mom, what the fuck is wrong with you? I said give me my fucking pizza bagels." And then you're like, "What the fuck?" Like, yo, if I spoke like that to my parents, like,
no one would beat me with a chocolate. Yeah, there wouldn't be a lot of me left. There wouldn't be a lot of face to speak. Yeah, for sure. You couldn't do that.
it's like, what the fuck do you want? What the fuck is it? And I'm like, yo, dude, like, you gotta
What are
chill.
you doing in here, Karen? Yeah, I think that's when you really know. At a certain point, white kids start calling their moms by their first name, and that's Yeah, it's not always a good thing.
So
Yeah,
I never told my mom about Mortal Kombat until years and years later. It didn't matter anymore. I made the mistake once of telling her something that I should have kept secret though. Uh, like I felt guilty, because she's like, "Oh, my mom, she should know," like that was mean or whatever. We watched. It was in theater still, but we were at a hotel, and my dad bought The Sixth Sense for us to watch it in the hotel. And my mom didn't want me watching that movie, but I watched it. And like way later, or like a month or two later, I was like, "Mom, I watched Sixth Sense. I know how it ends."
Aw. Oh,
You know
Vega
what I mean?
made it. I was so worried. Hey, Vega's got the baby. I mean, look at you. You're like a big pumpkin with that like hazardous orange shirt. I love that color. I feel like it's weird how like it's become like monopolized by people that actually do real things with their lives, Because like I'm pretty lazy. I used to wear that color microfiber hip hop dancing pants all the time when I was a wee lad. I felt really good about it. Oh,
Dude,
what was I gonna say?
this dude, Andrew Vega, he is on another level of like dad level than I am,
Sure.
like just chilling. See, look at him,
No,
he's
you're a
chilling
good
next
dad,
to
though.
this like
It's
this
true.
baby. But like,
He's like the
if I had
Buddha
my
of
son in
fatherhood.
here, I wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't happen. It would be too
You got your kid
distracting.
creating art right now? That's amazing. Well,
Yeah,
do you give your kids like amphetamines or sugar? Could you stop?
no, I need to get hers. What do you call it? Enlistment sheets for the Marines because she's in her crayon eating stage.
Yeah. You can tell if they're gonna eat crayons, they're gonna be great Marines. That's true.
Yeah.
That's usually how it goes. I was trying to say a story about my mom. What did you say a second ago? Your story? Oh man, it's already lost. It doesn't really matter, I suppose. It's okay. Well, how about this? We'll tell a Buddhist story. We talked about the Buddha. Do you know about like the Buddha and Mara, right? The Lord of Desire. You know that one? So like
I forget
Siddhartha.
what Mara is.
So it's a demon, the Lord of Desire. It's like it's a Durga. So basically, Siddhartha is trying to become the Buddha and get super enlightened and doing pretty well, right? Like he got rid of his family, abandoned his wife and kids, all the right stuff. So he's sitting under a tree and he's trying to just completely like detach from everything else. But he's really close to achieving enlightenment. And the Durga doesn't want Siddhartha to achieve enlightenment. Because once the Buddha happens, and the Buddha's going to be like a road for other people to do. It's like as soon as one monkey, 100 monkeys next. So
This reminds me of the temptation in the desert.
This is
for
exactly
Jesus.
where this is going. Yeah, except it's a little bit more. So basically, Mara sends his 3 hot daughters. Trishna, Rati, and Raga. So it's like lust. It's like craving, lust, and passion to seduce Siddhartha, and basically Siddhartha has to say no to craving, lust, and passion, and to these but the idea that sending his hot daughter was the temptation to try to like dissuade him from enlightenment. But Siddhartha is reaching up to the light, and so touches the earth, and in the grounding himself, he decides to say no. I think the goddess, the earth goddess, I can't remember her name. The Ronnie or something.
There's so many names for these like one concepts. There's probably
totally
8 that are like
thing,
similar.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the earth goddess kind of like helps defeat Mara, the lord of. Oh, look at you! You're just adorable, aren't you? Adorable! You're just so adorable. Look, yeah, hi, hot. Aw. Anyway, you that's enlightenment right there in your arms. That's pretty good. I like that. So, what have you guys been? Sorry, go ahead. Say it again.
Bellamy's been doing some unassisted standing lately, so walking around the corner.
Oh, you're proud of yourself because you can stand now. You don't have to just bow to the lords of the palace manor. They have to bow to you now. Yeah, you get it.
This one's got a more favorable. This one's got a better foot length to head weight ratio than my 2-year-old did at the same time. My 2-year-old didn't start walking until they were like 14 months. So This one's going to be
Whoa.
a year next month. Yeah.
Mm.
Longer feet,
But when
smaller
you
head.
start walking late, do you feel like when you start walking late, you running faster, or like how does that affect you? You know, like 'cause my brother didn't start speaking until he spoke.
Yeah,
in
like Forrest
sentences,
Gump.
and I started like
That's how it worked.
Yeah, is there something to that? Like Forrest Gump, is your baby Forrest Gumping it?
Maybe I think there might be a steeper curve with later adoption, you know? This one,
Mm.
obviously, there's pressure to learn how to
But they
walk.
appreciate it. They appreciate it more.
I remember what I
Yeah.
wanted to say about my mother. Go ahead, though. It's remind me of Saving Private Ryan, basically.
My wife just chimed in. I couldn't see the text, but she said Keanu started talking when he was 1 second.
You got Keanu and Raiden. These are the names of your kids. You went so hard, bro.
When he was, she wanted to brag that he was talking at 9 months, not to brag. She said,
That's pretty base. That's pretty base. My first word was no. I was supposed to like not touch the fireplace, so I like did, but I waited a day. Like I waited till it cooled down because like I'm disobedient and I'm oppositional defiant, but I'm not stupid. You know what I mean? I don't want to burn myself. But I waited the next day. I'm like, no.
Oh, it was walking. It was walking, not talking.
Yo, Colin,
Colin,
you have your son's names respectively are Keanu and Raiden.
Yeah, Keanu, Raiden, Lee.
I feel like
Vesely.
if you had a third child, you would literally name him like Jesus Christ.
Dude,
We're getting there.
Because
I want to name the next one's middle name Orion. So we're like,
ooh, that's pretty good.
We're moving on.
Isn't the Orion?
You should make the middle name
guys?
Ophiuchus because Ophiuchus sounds so dirty, but it's like completely reasonable.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah, like the serpent. So my mom was like, I come downstairs one time and I'm walking around and she's like, oh, there's this horrible movie. It's a wonderful movie, but it's a horrible movie. And it's so important. It's like, you shouldn't see it, but you shouldn't see it. It's making them throw up. Like who? Like the soldiers from World War II were throwing up because it's so real. I'm like, I think it, what? Like, what are you talking about? Well, you shouldn't see it, but maybe someday I'll make we'll see it together, but not till you're like 25 and I'm like 10 years old. I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about? What movie is this? She's like, Saving Private Ryan. I'm like, I saw that movie like 3 years ago. What the hell are you? What is it? What? Like, basically that's how that went down.
Oh, my wife, she has a very important question. We like it, but people that are normal people that aren't like us are telling us it's a bad idea. But we want to name our son Fox.
You can say it. Fox?
Yeah, really
That's
badly.
cool.
We want to name our son Fox, but all of our family is like, no, don't do it. That's terrible idea.
Is that short for Foxy Brown?
Yeah, well, like Fox Mulder, from X-Files. But
I mean, it might sound kind of like the F word, but I like it. I like Fox.
Yeah, they'd be like,
Zorro?
where the fox is he?
Where the fox? What the fox say? What did Fox say? Yeah, I can see that being a thing. Fox News. I like Fox because it's also 666, right? The F-O-X, like 666. There's a whole thing with that, right? You know what I'm talking about?
That's pretty
the
baller.
perfect number.
Oh no,
yeah.
I never even considered or thought about Fox News. That kind of like kills it for me a little bit.
Well, there won't
Like
be a Fox News.
People
forever.
can make that association. Maybe not. Maybe they'll outlive it.
Yeah, F is 6, O is 60, X is 600 in Gematria. So there's the whole thing right there. Here it is. FOX.
How is X 600?
I don't know. I just saw it written down there for a second. But at very least, according to this.
I mean, I understand the F being 6 thing just from numerology or whatever, but.
You see this on the chart here? So it goes through to I and then J to R and then S to Z. Like so
I
on
see
the
that,
6th row.
yeah.
I think that's what I remember seeing like 20 years ago. Someone was trying to push the Fox.
Why are you using a base 9 for not
these are good
amount anyways, whatever. Yeah,
these
sure,
are good questions.
I get it.
The other thing is what's wrong with 6, because like just because all these people use 6 doesn't mean that the number is bad. It's actually more like it's supposed to be that only the wise will know this number. So basically, anybody using 6 is just trying to flex that they think they're smarty pants. All these companies are like, oh well, we studied the occult in college. You know, our parents paid for us to go to like feminist studies and
Ooh, did you
magic as a
check out the
technology and
6?
anthology. Yeah, like the
The
CERN
way
logo, right?
the way that I rationalized it was the if you look at that video with like the 10 dimensions explained,
Oh yeah,
the
good one.
the
Love that
sixth
video.
dimension was like all probabilities of matter expressed simultaneously, and then
Right.
like to transcend that, the seventh dimension would be like as well as immaterial. So it would the combinations would transcend material. And that would be the seventh dimension. So to me, I was like, oh, well, the 6 is bad because matter and entropy, like that is sort of like that's the bad thing, and the good thing is the spirit and the ether or whatever. At least that was just
Yeah.
me smoking too much weed alone in my bedroom at 18 years old,
No, but
downloading all the different.
fifth dimensional beings have to have a 6-dimensional reality because you have to think of the point as 0. So,
Mhm.
you know, and fifth dimensional beings are what we're probably because of our ability to make choices, and
Yeah.
not necessarily that you can bleed from one reality to another. Because if you make a choice, it really impacts and affects the destiny or the destinial timeline. But that just kind of shows that there's like at least a 6-dimensional string. 7's interesting because it's like if something could exist, then there's 7-dimensional beings or angels, the Durgas we were talking about earlier, Asuras, Suras, you know, something that can be aware of all the choices that could be made simultaneously, but then they can't act. So dealing with a 5th-dimensional being, somebody that can actually go down that path, they can say, hey, if you went this way, this will happen. If you go that way, that will happen. But that's what separates consequentialism from the right and wrong. Because
Mhm.
we think of right and wrong because we don't really know what the future holds. We can't really be consequential. You wouldn't use right and wrong if you just knew what would happen. You wouldn't have to. It's so reductionist. Oh, this is the good thing to do. This is the bad thing to do.
Yeah.
How clear is that? You know, that's a very human perspective. But demons can't do so because they're, you know, too high up on the chain. Speaking of which, you can get paid $15 to listen to Jewish podcasts. Did you know about that? The Podcast Fellowship. We should be doing this. This is a sign only in
15.
New York City.
It would be only 15. Sorry.
Damn, I already spent years listening to the Jewish podcast Come Town for like years, and I didn't get a cent.
Yeah. See what I
We
mean?
could just
Like, this is better than
double
nothing.
our money. We can just do the stream while listening to the Jewish podcast and then comment, you know, over the
Wait,
top
you're getting paid for
of the
this?
Jewish stream.
I feel like we should be able to call this a Jewish podcast. We literally have already done Gematria, and we're not even to the 18th L'chaim minute of the show. So this kind of feels like at very least a Babylonian Talmudic podcast, and I'll take it. You know. So all right, Demon Amara. Let me just like run through some stuff I wanted to talk about really quickly, and then I'll be over it and we'll go back to talking about what we want to talk about. But just, you know, like contemporaneously, Trump torpedoes neoconservatism and liberalism in a single stroke. Don't care. Who could turn Bitcoin into stable money? Short answer is Vitalik and Jack Dorsey. How about the white genocide video that the President Trump showed the South African president? Yeah, no thoughts jumping out at you? I don't blame you. China demands U.S. scrap Gold Dome missile defense system as it could turn space into a battlefield. Do you guys think about the Golden Dome? Have you heard about the Golden Dome?
Wait,
And don't tell me you practice Golden Dome in college, because that's not what it's about.
So this
Isn't that like the Iron Dome, but it's like a golden escalator version?
Yeah, it's like, so Trump wants to do Golden Dome. So it's the Star Wars Strategic Defense Initiative, only open source. He's using open technologies to do it. It's like open standards. So it's gonna be like Linux-based Gold Dome.
Who's got the contract?
That's the point of the openness. The openness everyone does. A bunch of companies any company can participate. So there's a lot, and it's going to make it cheaper to do.
Keanu.
But yeah, there's a $25 billion down payment that went to it. Oh, you meant like your son Keanu. I thought you meant like literally Keanu Reeves. Like, I know Golden.
Oh no, he wants to say hi because he can hear us.
Bring him on. Go ahead. What? Come on. We have
Keanu.
Wouldn't it be rude? Yeah.
Come say hi.
If you want, bro.
Come on in.
If you want.
Come stand in front of the phone.
He's like, I don't know if I want to do that.
Hi.
Hey, dude, what's up? Whoa, good to meet you. You're Keanu?
He says, "Good to meet you. You're Keanu."
Yeah.
That's right.
Do you want to let him headphone in, or are you scared that we might say something weird? No.
Not scared. It's more what he might. Do you wanna say hi for a second with the headphones?
Yeah, I'm just going to talk about me.
Dude,
Hi.
you want to? What's up, bro? Okay, turn your head so we can see you a bit. Dude, what's
Hi.
up? Your dad's one of my best friends. I like your dad. He's a cool
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
What?
Did you not? I actually am like pretty good at building stuff with Lego.
You like Legos? I love Legos. What kind of stuff do you like to build with Legos?
Oh, I like to play my favorite games, and my favorite games is Plants vs Zombies, and pretty
Plants vs.
much.
Zombies is so good. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
play as the zombies or the plants more?
Sometimes I play the zombies, so Plants vs Zombies, Battle of the Neighborhood.
I always like being the plants. I like the zombies because they're funny looking, but the plants are so cool too, you know?
Yeah, but I think the zombies are better because Dr. Ray's is better because he makes robots. So because I'm
Fair.
his actually his boss. Because I'm actually his boss.
Yeah, then actually is a completely reasonable and salient take. I mean, so
Yeah.
when you play with Legos though, like how do you play with Legos to do Plants vs Zombies, or are they just separate?
Oh no, I just like build the zombies and the plants, and I just have this little toy that's a plant, and sometimes I have like three minifigures, but
Yeah.
that's not enough. So I have like three. So but then I had to use it for something, so I used two instead. And one
Yeah.
more, that's the boss. It's Dr. Brains. I made the robot. And there's a
Oh,
lot
for
of
sure.
stuff. Yeah, and there's a machine gun.
You like to play Minecraft too. You made a huge.
You like Minecraft? That's like
Yeah.
my
Like
favorite
it
game.
was
I love
massive. Like
Minecraft.
when he showed it to me last time I was home, and I was like, "This is like seriously like it was like as big as like Chicago.
Yeah.
It was freaky."
Yeah, did you not got another house that has like beacons all around it?
Dude, I made a cool roller coaster with Minecraft recently. That was pretty much the biggest roller coaster I think I've ever seen in Minecraft. We should
Yeah.
probably build a server
Yeah.
sometime and just play Minecraft.
Yeah, because my roller coaster is just going all the way up until you fall, and then you'll see me do the Olympics. Because I get out my car and I just jump and I just go on the floor.
Okay, buddy. Say
Dude,
Bye.
Mommy wants you.
wait, one more thing. I gotta tell him one more thing. Let me one more thing.
Said bye.
Sorry. So I mean, because you got me excited because you're talking about Minecraft. What I like to do with Minecraft is I was telling him what I like to do with Minecraft. One more thing. Can you hear me? I'm telling him about Minecraft.
I accidentally pressed a button on the headset, so I need to get re-put in. But we can kind of hear you.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just saying what I like to do is I like to dig a hole down to the bottom of the world so that I go right through the bottom of the world. And then I like to build a tower that goes straight up to the very top of the world so that I can
Whoa.
that's my favorite thing to do.
Oh, hey, do you want to know something even cooler than that? One day I made like a house underground, and I did it again, but in my other house I made like a TV and like a PC. I just made like a TV and a mouse.
Yeah.
And I just,
Underground, like with mole people?
Dude.
I'm talking about my up house.
Okay, we gotta get
on
put
top
back
of
in,
the
okay, buddy?
mountain. Yeah.
Dude.
I love you, man.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Dude, later,
He says
Keanu.
bye-bye.
It's good to meet you. What a cool guy. The other thing I
He
like to do
says,
with
good to
Minecraft.
meet you.
Yeah, bro. At some point, we'll play Minecraft. One of my favorite things to do with Minecraft is you get sponges and you go in the ocean and you just creative mode. You dig down into the ocean with sponges, which erases the water. But then you delete the sponges and build it again, and you just do it over and over again. You just delete water and you build sponges and delete water and build sponges, and eventually you create this weird vortex glitch in the middle of the ocean where and you just build by removing things with sponges until eventually there's no sponges left and there's no water left and there's just this like empty weird portal in the middle of the ocean. It's great. my favorite thing. Probably the best thing ever. Oh, Minecraft is good,
Only in Minecraft.
dude. Yeah. Okay, I got excited there. The dupe glitch, is that what it's called, or the 5 water dupe glitch? Forget what this thing is. Basically, I mean, I don't know if you guys are old. If people are watching this, and they don't know what we were talking about there. You get these, you go to the ocean there with the sponges. There's a sponge glitch. 5 water removal tips, sponges. Is there no video about this? Do I have to make the Minecraft sponge glitch video? I might have to do it. I don't think anyone has the video on the Minecraft sponge removal. Huh. Crazy. All right.
Maybe if
Okay,
you could
so what
still
was
do
the
it,
other
I might
thing?
have passed it.
No, dude, you can totally do it. I did it recently. I did it like probably a month ago. Every once in a while I'll go back into Minecraft just to do that. All right. So what about the Japanese agricultural minister Tako Edo, who resigned after inappropriate remarks about buying rice? Did you guys hear about this? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
Was it his like Marie Antoinette moment or something?
So he said that he's never bought rice before because people always give him rice. They were talking about like the price of rice and what it's like. This is like a cool metaphor for our reality, because people worry about the price of bread, and here's this guy saying that he doesn't care because he's never had to pay for it himself. And they were like, yeah, that's pretty insensitive.
What a flex.
They're always
hard
saying
flex,
they're always saying like, what does that have to do with the price of rice in China? And I guess we found out.
Exactly.
Right
Even in Japan.
but yeah.
But yeah, it's still, the point is the same. It's actually like that expression makes sense all of a sudden. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like a lot of what's going on in the world are people that live in complete disassociation from reality, just sitting at home playing Minecraft or something like that instead of trying to take care of business.
Mm-hmm.
Minecraft is business.
Yeah.
Dude, Minecraft is so cool.
Wow, that
Serious
face
business.
pain.
Yeah, he feels really bad. He's done with his career.
I
He
feel like
really
you should
shouldn't have said
cue a
that.
sound bit that's like wah wah wah.
Well, like a gong. There should be like a gong involved.
What was it? Produced by Larry. Gosh, how am I so out of touch with?
Woody Harrelson?
No,
Not Woody Harrelson. Fuck.
it's that shit. Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, Larry David.
Oh, Larry David.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
hard cut.
Yeah. That works for me. Okay. All right. I think that's all. I don't really care about any world politics. I tried my best to like make this contemporaneous, but whatever. How
It was
about you,
funny
Chris?
when you were going through it. When you were going through it, I tried really hard to care about any of the headlines. Like I tried, and
me too. Right?
how you were like, oh, and you can't think of anything to say. I don't blame you. I was like, I could not.
I mean, but then your kid comes in here, and I'm like, now this is something that actually impacts my life and yours and everyone else's. Like this kid gets it. Legos, Minecraft, things that actually like people live and die by,
that made his day. He's gonna think he's famous now for like the next week. It's gonna be cool.
Dude, he's grounding. He's grounding energy. Like that's exactly. I don't know. Kids seem. Do you think kids have their priorities straighter than grown-ups do, and why is that?
I mean, most kids I would say do because they don't have to worry about basic survival, so they can just focus on like enrichment.
Right. I mean, he comes in here, introduces himself, talks about things that he values, finds commonalities with other people, and shares things he's learned that he thinks would be beneficial to other people if they love those things. He's like, here's something you can do. And he's interested. I mean, I feel like something that a lot of people can't, when you try to have a conversation, they can't even grasp onto that. And all kinds of conversations I end up with people are talking about, like I just did, here's the problems in the world today. Like look at this problem that a lot of people are hurt by and don't have an answer to. And I don't know if I feel like we're missing something that kids get. Yeah, less distracted, strangely though. Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, I mean, when your mental bandwidth is freed up a lot, and you can focus on things that make you feel good, and you have more opportunity to establish connections with other people. When you don't have this like nagging, like hunger like tapping on your shoulder.
Dude. Yeah.
pure focus on what makes them happy. Like, what is gonna like be the dopest thing that I can do right now? What is gonna make me smile? What can I go to next? Like, you're not thinking about all the other stuff, like you're saying, like survival and stuff. So you're just straight to like the good stuff. All of the good stuff you can think of, candy bars and like Scooby Doo and all that. Like, it's very much more present and important.
Shout out to Matthew Terrell. Good to see you again, bro. I ended up watching Captain America at your review. I actually liked it. I think it was underrated, or at least like the woke right
Brave New
hated
World?
it. Or,
Wait, are you talking about the new one? That sucked.
Yeah.
I hated that.
I only
fucking
saw
movie.
half of it on the
Yeah,
plane.
there was supposed to be a Captain Israel, and they completely cut her shit because of the controversy. I felt fucking robbed. I was expecting to see a hot babe Captain Israel, and nah, they took it away from. They took away Sabra, so fuck that movie.
Well,
I wanted my hot babe Captain Israel.
They did Captain Israel, just not in the movie. It was Eurovision this year. If you paid attention, like they had the lady who survived the shrapnel wound, and she's standing there on stage, and they tried to force a win that wasn't real for her. She got second place. Eurovision, there a bunch of TV stations like Spain and all the other countries are trying to sue now because they think there was like hyper manipulation of the Eurovision vote to push. I mean, because I didn't know this as an American because I didn't study geography apparently, but apparently Israel's in Europe, so there's that.
Sorry, yeah, we probably shouldn't say that country too many times, I guess. But I'm just tripping out because my kid is just now forming a core memory. Maybe she just discovered the springy doorstop.
Oh,
and she's been playing
that's a moment in history they'll never forget.
Yeah. Exactly.
Dude, kinetic energy. Yeah, that's
so I'm going to be muting myself periodically because God knows how long that thing's going to keep her occupied.
It's still pretty cute though. I mean, you should probably find a physics video when she's older that explains kinetic and potential energy with the doorstop, because like you can, once you have a practical application for energy, she could be a nuclear scientist just because of that doorstop. That might be the thing that does it.
We might be on to some other form of energy by then. Hopefully, that's my
doorstops. That's the future of energy is doorstops.
I mean,
I've been kind of obsessed with Akiyamart. No, go ahead. Sorry, I'll go back to it.
I want people to be able to buy like nuclear power sources off of Chinese websites. Like, dude, I mean, the past 30 minutes, I've been looking up the efficacy of these like Chinese-made turbocharger kits, and they seem a little sketchy, but some get good reviews. So I'm sure it's like going to change a lot of things for our future in terms of.
They've been pushing those. Oh, Vincent made it. What's up, Vincent? We were just talking about Minecraft, Legos. Good to see you. Look at you.
How's it going, everyone?
I like this suit hoodie thing. You kind of look like Keanu Reeves from one of the Matrix movies. Like that's like the outfit he wore actually.
Yeah, homeless Pete.
Yeah.
This is my standard uniform.
Dude, what have you been up to? You've been working hard, right? I know like the last couple of times you've been busy.
Yeah, just shift in hours and stuff, and life changes, and preparing to move and stuff. So,
how's Canada?
How's Canada? It's all right. It's warming up, so summer's coming. Everything's green. It feels good.
Yo, if I were there, I would buy you Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
Please don't. Please don't. Aim higher. Aim higher.
Like Canada's like a country that has Putin, but like nobody has a problem with it, whereas Russia always gets in trouble for it.
Yeah, our Putin's a little better.
Dude, tiny nuclear batteries that could run decades without charging are all over the internet right now. They're always pushing this idea. It's like you get radioactive salts and carbon-14. They shake it up, and then it produces nuclear isotopes in the battery, and the battery could just charge for 1,000 years or 100 years.
Can I get one off Temu?
Oh, it's like a radioactive
glue. This stuff's existed for decades, but the military-industrial contracts always take the companies and disappear them as soon as they discover the tech. They just kind of remove them from the equation. Like, you're not selling that. So if I think it's out.
Does it cause cancer? Like, is it how radioactive?
Does radiation really cause cancer? Like,
it's a good question.
Is 5G bad for you? I'm just saying the oil companies really want to project this whole thing that you have to be careful about nuclear power, because at the same time that they were protesting nuclear power, they were building fiberglass gas tanks on their Pintos, you know?
Yeah.
So they had to make something sound worse than what they had.
True, they don't have a problem with cancer. That's for sure.
Right?
Based on everything they sell that's carcinogenic, they don't have a problem with cancer.
I'd like to believe. Yeah, I'd like to believe that there's other things worse than nuclear, out there. A lot of these nuclear projects are probably pretty safe. Thorium reactor, right? They made thorium reactor. They made a functional thorium reactor. Who did that recently? Who had the new thorium reactor? I forget who did this. It was in the news recently. China. Yeah, China. China has a new thorium reactor because there's all that thorium in the Silicon Valley. All these beaches, the beach sand, that are just filled with thorium. And thorium is a radioactive isotope, but you're walking around in it and it's not bothering anybody. So I don't think that radiation is inevitably a terrible thing. I think they're using that just to scare you. Same thing with like Fukushima. Like they did this Fukushima.
What is it? It's the radioactivity that's dangerous is the subatomic particles that break off, that damage our DNA and mess up cell reproduction. Like that's supposed to be the dangerous part, right?
Well, there's no doubt that some radiation is unhealthy if you're directly exposed to, like, if you go inside like a nuclear reactor, you're probably not gonna have a good time.
You know? Yeah, like you shouldn't be inside of a microwave. They've been telling me not to like put my head right against it since I was little, even with the Faraday cage. But in general,
you made a glory hole, and
you can't freaking tell me what to do with my life, you know. But
it's
with the nuclear reactors, Japan, particularly the Fukushima, there's a bunch of just hugs and kisses, hug life, bro.
Wait, what were you saying?
Well, like they went to the forest around Fukushima, and the leaves in the ground are still there from 2011. So the radiation, the first couple of days or whatever, fried everything and killed all these microbes. So the microbes can't digest the leaves. So there is heavy radiation, but it's all in the leaves. So unless there's like a fire, when sometimes forest fires happen, and that makes this big cloud of radioactive isotopes in the smoke that move over, and then that rains down, or carbon soot falls down, that's pushing radiation. But generally, everything's cool in Japan. Like the fish are fine. There's a couple weird spider webs every once in a while, but radiation didn't really screw up Japan. Not nearly as much as we expected.
Eyeball fish.
No three eyeball fish.
Oh,
yeah, the salmon are spawning and breeding perfectly. In fact, because of this, a lot of things are doing better.
What about
things that would have killed them off are gone? They're gone. The baby things are gone.
Yeah. Sorry, Vince. Well, it could be. I think that the radiation is a very, like, it's a huge part of the universe. There's so much radiation, but we're told that like radiation is going to be it's really, really bad for us. But I think we don't
literally life.
We don't understand
it
fully. That's for sure. Like we're trying. We've been exposed to so much radiation at different points in human civilization that we actually probably have like some sort of connection to it that's deeper, and that is something we can eventually unlock. That like we're in the same way that high CO2 levels will change an ecosystem and make plants grow even bigger, and like all that, like radiation might have an influence on us on such a fundamental level that it'll really shape us more.
No detectable levels of radiation have been found in Alaska fish. No issues with the wastewater. No threat to drinking water or food. I mean, I think I really am. I'm more concerned with oil company propaganda than I am with nuclear. I think that, people are moving into Chernobyl now. If you live in Russia and you want to go to Chernobyl, there's a mayor of Chernobyl. In Pripyat, they'll get you. They'll get you a house if you decide you promise to live there and stay there for like 5 to 20 years or something like that. They just like let you move into Chernobyl. I don't think nearly as bad as people think it is.
Do you think that's why they?
Yeah, no problem. You ever heard this idea that like humans
you can't
aren't
spell
really
radiation without rad? Oh, that's good.
That humans aren't really native to this planet or sun because the way that we can't handle all of the radiation, like all of the other animals on the planet, everything can be out in the sun all day, kind of, like a lot of things, anyways. And so the idea is that,
every creature has their limit. You know, like they all seek the shade when it's too sunny.
Sure,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. But I agree that we might not be from Earth. That's that part I definitely agree.
Why did
Yeah, we
humans
might have been
evolve? Why didn't we evolve to see radio waves,
You guys can't see radio waves?
bro? I was about to ask the same thing. I feel like some of us can. There's some weird music playing on this page right now. It's freaking me out. I almost want you to hear it. Hold on. I opened that page, and then this is what happened. Hold on, check this out. I'll play it again. Wait for it. Is it loading? What happened there? Here, come on down. No? No sound? Oh, come on. Don't make me a liar. Oh, it was probably this thing. Yeah. I can't even see radio waves. DLC.
This is the most calming music.
That's a
How-
vibe
you
right
ever
there. I don't
heard?
know. It's
How far away
somewhere-
are radio waves from like the visible light spectrum?
They're close. I mean, so
Is it
like
on the
outside of the
red side? or
arguably,
the-
like some of the radio waves are like light spectrum are radio waves. So I guess you just say ultraviolet, infrared, or the range of limitations that you can see. Is that
Yeah.
not the question you're asking, or no?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm at. Like which radio waves are the? Are they talking about like radio frequencies that you can transmit sound over, or?
Okay, so I guess to answer your question a little bit clearer, here's a map. So gamma waves up at the 10 to the 12th, or 10 to the negative 12th, and then radio is 10 to the 10 cubed. So from 10 to microwave to infrared. So I guess
Why are
visible is
butterflies? Hold on a second. Okay. Now, I see now.
That's the frequency they can see at. So like
no,
butterfly.
it's a scale. It's a
Butterflies-
scale.
Is it?
No, I don't think I don't think that butterflies can see microwaves. Maybe they can. But I
Well,
don't
they can
know.
see. I know that they can see.
Human
They have
grade
receptors
player.
we don't have. That's for sure. So,
I
It's a
think
scale,
the scale thing is correct.
yeah. It's a scale. I thought it was I just saw a butterfly and then I saw the color spectrum. So,
But yeah,
Do you
here's
guys
the
think
map again.
do you guys think that Mr. Burns was propaganda by oil companies to make people hate like nuclear power?
Sort of. I think Mr. Burns was propaganda by Harvardites to make people hate Yale people, right? Because Mr. Burns,
Yeah,
Mr. Burns went to Yale.
That's a joke that happens maybe like 4 times in the show, but the nuclear power plant owner is the constant, of course. There.
Yeah, he's the sort of billionaire, the American billionaire who
Yeah.
is desensitive to. But Harvard is from Simpsons comes. Simpsons comes from Harvard. So does
Yeah, yeah.
National Lampoon. So
Mhm.
when you start to kind of get a picture around the propaganda ministry that is Harvard, versus Skull and Bones and Yale, you can start to see the dynamic.
Yeah.
And I'm just
Right.
recently kind of figuring that out because I didn't really watch The Simpsons growing up. So I always assumed that The Simpsons were just Skull and Bones propaganda. But then you realize, no, it's Harvard propaganda. And they
Yeah.
actually kind of feel a little weird. Like there's some like weird Ivy League rivalry going
For
on
sure,
between
for sure.
Scale and yeah.
That's funny. But Mr. Burns does show that like even nuclear power, if you neglect it or if you use it in the wrong way, if you're mismanaging it, then yeah, it can be dangerous. Like any source of power, it's really about how well you take care of these sort of things. Even oil could probably be way safer than it is, but the oil companies don't want to invest in actually making it safer.
I'm more saying, did you
No.
look into the Idaho 4 case? No, I don't even know what that is. I'll admit, talking about rabbit holes. What is the Idaho 4 case? What is this about? Idaho-based lawyer, prosecutor. Is this what it is? Tell me what this is, and I'll look into it more. I'm not sold on what it is, or I don't know what it is yet. Talk about frat rabbit holes. Is Idaho 4? Tell me, where are you going with that? What's the Idaho 4 case? Does anybody else know what she's talking about?
No
Sorry,
idea.
no.
All right,
Is it
Elmo
something
will
about-
explain.
Did they eat
Was it-
babies
was it ripping
together?
people.
Stop
Idaho's
eating babies.
weird. It is. She's saying Brian Koberger. Okay, so I'll pull it up. Why not? Brian Koberger case could lead to case leak could lead to excluded evidence. Idaho attorney warns. An Idaho-based lawyer said she thinks Joe Hitler will absolutely hold prosecutor and law enforcement. Do I have to go to Grok? What is this about? New cell phone records. Koberger's accused of killing Zana Kernodle and several women. Is this like a dude who killed like a bunch of chicks in Idaho? Idaho is weird, man. I was sent away, when I was a kid, that Seuss program. You guys heard about Seuss,
MK Ultra.
Seuss Wild, Seuss. Yeah, kind of one of those kind of things.
Oh, is that like
Beyond
Paris
Cruel,
Hilton
inside a wilderness program? Yeah, Paris Hilton made a whole doc about this whole program, and they sent me to Idaho and.
Okay, all right.
Sorry,
made me this all starting to make so much more sense.
Yeah, that explains a lot. Andreas, that explains so much about you.
But have you ever made a hacky sack out of a mouse because they made you? No?
Out of a mouse?
Oh, yeah.
You would get a decent pattern out of a mouse hide, so that makes sense.
I was pretty good at it. You use like beans or lentils to fill the mouse up. And to catch the mouse, peanut butter on a stick. And you had to I could make ropes and stuff. I made all kinds of ropes from.
Wait, they made you catch and trap and kill the mice.
Mice. I ate mice. Yeah, bro.
So you learn.
Did they also did they drown you in a tub and then revive you?
No, that's the whole other thing I did later in college. But when I was young, basically they take everything away from you, strip you, put you in a new outfit. It was dressed like everybody else. And there was all these weird kids that were I thought I was weird, but there's this kid whose dad was an oil pipe installer in Saudi Arabia and Qatar. It's blonde dude. And all these there's this one kid from South Dakota whose parents were both dentists, but he'd been hanging out with the Kurdish mob, these gangsters that had been brought to South Dakota. And so they wanted to force him to clean up his act and everything. I get out there and all these kids were drug addicts. I hadn't done drugs or anything like that. I was just I was barefoot and I was fasting, and it freaked my parents out. So they pulled me out of school. They sent me to this freaking, I got, get kidnapped in the middle of the night, carried off by these two baseball former players. And they make you go to the woods, and they say, on the way out, my brother's yelling at it, you should have been behaving yourself. He's his younger brother. So bad, right?
Yeah. You got black bagged, basically.
I got black bagged. Is that what they call that? I got black bagged, bro. That's
means you get taken away in a black bag. Yeah.
Your brother sounds like the dickhead, where if he sees a car accident, he'd be rolling down the window, you shouldn't park there. You're not allowed to park there.
Not my table, but yeah, it's not my business.
Yeah, but a lot of the times the people who crash, they deserve to be mocked a little. They're hey, why did you park there?
Fair enough. I don't know. I
were going 160 and 100. That's why.
I definitely feel I upset people because I was not interested in following orders. And I was. Here. Yeah, and being barefoot in school, at one point they're you can't come to school barefoot anymore. I'm that sounds great. I was no, I'm if they're so I stay barefoot, I don't have to come to school anymore. This is amazing, so I wasn't really getting it. And I used to do this thing. So really close to my house is the medicine Buddha, right? You know what the medicine Buddha is? Let me just show you this. So where I live, Santa Cruz, there's a Buddhist temple in the freaking woods, right? So they literally, this is
origin story.
Yeah, it's true. We're going there. So it's in the redwood trees. This is a giant 36-foot tall golden Buddha surrounded by all the dead people that I ever met, and some of the ones I hadn't. They have other little shrines in this place here. This medicine wheel here, filled. Normally you have prayers written in there. These have magnetic tapes, recordings of monks doing mantras in the medicine wheel. How Silicon Valley is that, So I used to go there a lot. I've been there recently. I went there this year, it's one of my favorite places to be. But I remember in school one day, I was upset because they forced me to take this electronic literacy class. I'm I'm not taking a literacy class, I'm not illiterate. And they're no, it's illiteracy. I'm I can program in Linux, whatever. I'm not going to take this. So they put me in the class, and I installed on the computer Linux or BIOS operating system and was like hacking the thing. And she's like, "Stop what you're doing!" I'm like, hold on a second, I'm almost done. So I was upsetting them. And I'm like, I'm just not going to go back to that class anymore. It took them like 3 days to figure this out, and they finally just put me into a music theory class instead because they realized. So I was like, I just went to the guidance counselor. Like, here's the deal. I'm just not going to go. I'm not going to go back there. I'm not going to do it. So like, if you want to put me in a class like that, I will go to. I will go to that. And the guidance counselor was like, okay, well, yeah. I mean, if you're not going to go, you just not going. Then we'll put you in a class you want to go. So like, there was just this kind of energy
God,
there.
that's an option.
Yeah, you just have to force your way through life. That's something.
I guess that only works in LA.
No, I was in Santa Cruz. It's even worse.
Santa Cruz.
But for the 3 days, so one of the days I like went out and I was like walking around. I'm like, I think I'm going to go to the medicine Buddha. Who wants to come with me? I got like 20 kids to play hooky. Like all of us just didn't go to class.
No,
whatever class that we wanted
that's
to,
awesome.
and we all walked to the medicine Buddha and we just hung out there. And then we went to the beach. And I was like, this is a way more valuable day. I think we all agreed. So things like that, I can admit, probably led to like my parents being concerned that I wasn't going to ever be a desk clerk. You know what I mean? Because they really wanted me to be a beta desk clerk of some kind and just do my job. Like my mom's a doctor and my dad was a lawyer. So they just wanted me to do what was normal and acceptable. And I was clearly not headed that way. So they wanted to scare me straight. So that's why the Seuss program. I forget why we brought up Seuss exactly, though.
You know what? In another life, I could have
Idaho.
seen you as a dentist.
Dude, you know what though? I just because like that's all the drugs.
The thing is, you would have been a dentist, but you would have killed yourself after like the 15th year, basically.
Yeah, and I don't know a lot of happy dentists. I dated a girl whose parents were both dentists, and they were like extreme alcoholics and drug addicts and kind of abusive of each other. So it kind of turned me off to the whole dentistry thing. Plus, I saw that movie, The Dentist, that horror movie, The Dentist, where he like freaks out one day and like he murders a bunch of people because his wife is having sex with the pool boy. And then, you know, the only person who survives is the girl who's getting her teeth checked after her braces are taken out. She's like, I promise I'll floss 3 times a day. He's like, 3 times a day? Okay. All right. And lets them live. So I don't know. Never been a fan of the dentist.
So you
Is
would
there
have
a
become
movie called The Secret Life of Dentists? That seemed like a trippy movie. I think there is.
I'm going to go back up because I went on like such a personal rant just now.
No,
yeah,
That was good.
I can make fire with sticks. The bow drill. I can make a bow drill. You know, you soak the different kinds of bark to make the rope for the thing. You get the willow branch and you got the dogwood. There's all kinds of specific woods used for specific purposes. I learned a lot about all that stuff. But I learned all that in Idaho because I got sent to Idaho and they had this program called Seuss and it was shut down. Like if you saw the documentary, you know, like kids died there, you know, and like when I was there, kids were starving or they got hurt a lot. Like they fell off cliffs and things like that. So they basically had them just kind of wander through. We had to wander through Idaho through the Great Basin Desert from dawn until dusk. And we didn't have backpacks. So you're stripped naked. They give you a plastic tarp, and the plastic tarp, you have to like fold it up into this backpack. And then you wear with P-cord, this like rope that you've tied up, this fake backpack that you make. Then you arrive somewhere, you spread out your tarp, and you can put that over you so that if it's hailing, you don't freeze to death, essentially, because you got a sleeping bag and you got this tarp. There's no tents, so you're always sleeping outside. And then when the rain comes and the worst, hail's one thing because it's just loud and annoying and like you're covered. But when rain comes and it's like just about freezing temperature, then the water freezes on impact. So then they have to get a knife like the leaders do. And then they had to like break the ice sheet out off of the burritos, basically we called them because we're in the plastic because we couldn't get out because we're frozen over in ice. Right. So I don't know. It was a crazy time.
I think that's how you got on to the Seuss thing, was from the Idaho 4 thing.
So that's what I was trying to see if Amor had any information about this dude. I haven't quite found it. Amor, did you see 4 kids were killed in Idaho, sorority girls? Oh, that's a bummer. And it says mainstream media, it's all being framing him. So you're saying that you don't think this guy actually did it? The mainstream narrative isn't accurate. They want to pin it on Brian on touch DNA from a sheath that was a red herring placed there.
All right.
Yeah.
This is now a true crime podcast.
This is crazy, yeah. So let's see.
right.
I can't believe none of you all heard about this case. It's one of the biggest cases in the country right now. I know, but I'm not in your country. You know, I'm in Germany. But I'll look it up.
Right now, I'm in the Karen Reed wormhole about speaking of like being framed by officials.
Oh yeah, go on. Tell me more.
Oh, Karen Reed. Are you guys not familiar with Karen Reed? Hast long to die in cold. That's like the meme. Anyway, so this lady got into a fight with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend was a cop. He was partying at some cop's house. They found his body like outside, and he had like died in the cold, but he showed there was signs of a struggle, and it's like really, really, really obvious. They had the first trial was a mistrial, and now it's being retried because the first time it turned out that the judge had some kind of like really intimate connections to all of the plaintiffs, I guess, like
Oh,
the people who were
my.
trying to frame this woman for
I
murder.
bet
When
he
really,
did.
like,
She's hot.
She
yeah,
looks
they
kind of
killed
like
this
a
guy
Snoopy character, but okay.
She looked like AOC.
Oh, and the pictures got taken away. They really want me to pay for this. So is Karen Reed a good guy or a bad guy? What's your take on
Karen,
this?
I believe that they framed Karen Reed because these cops got into like a fight with
She
her
looks really hot
boyfriend
there.
and accidentally killed him, and they left him to die out in the snow, and enough things started to. Anyways, right around the time that the
Her face
coroner
does
said
stress
that
me out.
he died of hypothermia or whatever, one of the ladies who helped this woman look for her husband or her boyfriend, like Googled "costs long to die in cold."
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, so she's like one of those people that like steals your phone at a party and then helps you look for it.
I love that example.
Shady. What was the one? There was another one I saw recently. It was like they framed a lady. There was another. I think where you already maybe told me about this yourself, Andrew. Is this the one, or is another lady that was someone on the East Coast? I thought the police. I think you were telling me that the police left a dead body at somebody's house and said that they murdered the person, but it was actually that the police had done it. You thought allegedly, and left
I
the
don't
body at
know.
someone's house.
It must have been somebody else, but
Police.
I don't know any
frame.
other. Oh my gosh, kid, stop! No, you're not allowed to eat that.
Oh no.
Hold on a second.
Christopher Schur, I think, is that right? There was another one. It was like Christopher Schur. Basically, they left a body at somebody's house, and then they said that this person had that the lady had killed this person. I can't find it. I don't know. I don't
It's so
follow all the
rude.
true crime stuff, but
Just leave a
yeah,
body
like
at someone's house.
and the police had done it essentially. The police had this person for a long period of time, and they didn't want to admit that they had killed the person because they had gone overboard or something. So they dropped the body off at this other person's house and said that that person killed them. Basically, I think this was in Boston or somewhere on the East Coast. But yeah, there seems to be a lot of crazy stuff happening. It's really hard to trust the justice system. Pretty sad.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could look at it as like a human thing, like what, especially if they're in positions of authority, they decide to just take that risk, right? Do something they know they shouldn't do for a potential payoff that could set them up. And then there's always that oh shit moment where like, a few little things go wrong, but it's like no big deal. We could recover from this. We could keep the scheme going. But then that one thing goes wrong where it's like, oh fuck, we're fucked. And then it all just unravels.
Matt wanted to know if Idaho's a bad move if you move there. I thought I actually, like, weirdly enough, really liked Idaho as much as under the circumstances, as much as I could. But it's a pretty state, and one of the things I really like about Idaho is it's got the most hot springs of any state in the country. I think hot springs are really important. So being around hot springs are cool. There's just a weird energy there, and this is again 20
I think
years ago.
Yellowstone close to there.
Say it again. Yellowstone is in Wyoming.
Oh, are Idaho and Wyoming like close together? Aren't they like neighbors or something?
I thought that Israel wasn't in Europe, so I don't know really. Like, yeah. So
I know there's a lot
it
of
goes,
clan out there.
It goes. Idaho, Wyoming is in the southeast of Idaho, and Oregon's on the other side, and then Montana So, so Montana is like, because you know how Idaho's like a weird, like
Idaho
L
is shaped
shape?
like a clan hood.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, is Montana's in the most of it. It kind of is, like, you know, right? Like it's a weird little state.
It's so
But
funny.
what was weird to me was like you had interesting hippies that left California in the 70s and 80s who'd moved to Idaho, and they were kind of cool. But then you had like hyper religious people in Idaho, particularly like creepy fundamentalist Christians. And now there's a bunch of Mormons, and I like them. So I feel like if you want to live in Idaho, like hang out near the Mormons, they're pretty good. But there were definitely some weird religious, like occult religious folk that had angel and demon cards. They were really into this weird, like kind of magic, angel card thing, esotericism that seemed kind of strange to me. And a lot of the places were dead, like there were ghost towns and things where people had died, like Indian villages that had been like genocided and whatever.
Yeah, what do you have to say about like religious people who tend to really latch on to the idea of like religious community, like glomming to groups of people who share similar beliefs versus the people who could just be like religious on their own? They're like, dude, I don't need a fucking like community or a
Well, the thing is that people watch out for each other in communities, so
Yeah,
that's why
of course.
people value them.
Owen lives in Idaho. Well, that sounds pretty good. I mean,
It's so easy to go from a community to a cult when you bring in religion.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's hard to draw that line, but the impulse, of community is we need to help each other. We're struggling out here, and we can't do it all on our own. And it's true. It's just we're either dependent on a community that's immediate or the greater community that like most religious people consider to be under the control of like the devil. So like we isolate or the devil controls us, but the devil's everywhere.
Brian Koberger was a criminology student in Pullman, Washington. Surviving roommates didn't call 911 until 8 hours after the 3 girls and guys were stabbed. Okay. Like, there's definitely some of the story. Who would you recommend me looking into, like, following? Where have you been getting this information? Are you just following this? Or is somebody, some YouTuber, somebody covering this you think that we should follow? Because I'd be interested to look into that. Matt also says, I'm living in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So we win on the drughead folks. Yeah, North Carolina went super hippie, but I think North Carolina is pretty cool as well. Even though there's like a weird military presence there too. Isn't Mr. Beast in North Carolina? I think that's where he's at as well. I have some friends that moved to North Carolina. It's a kind of beautiful state. I kind of like North Carolina. I don't know. Do you need to leave North Carolina for Idaho? Not sure. Could be wrong. Loyalty is priceless, and that just proved who is bought. Yeah, that could be true. I tried to move to Idaho. What the heck happened to you, bro? South Carolina is great. Yeah, okay. I definitely like the South generally. It's super sad though. You go to the South and you see how much they've destroyed it. Like Louisiana, I went to in the Christmas of last year, and or was it? Yeah, last year, and there was so much fracking going on. And I used to think, hey, whatever. What do the liberals know? But fracking screwed up Louisiana. There's just these huge pipes running around with everything coming out of it. A lot of people getting nerve damage. A bunch of people like, hey, yeah, I ain't some sort of a hippie. I support America and oil. Oil's great, but like there just seems like there's a lot of nerve damage, and the health in Louisiana doesn't, like 20 years ago, Louisiana seemed like a pretty healthy place. Today, it doesn't seem like a super healthy place, And I think that's probably because of fracking. Could be wrong.
Yeah, where's Aaron Brockovich when you need her?
Probably got vaccinated. Sorry.
We need to value wisdom instead of just supporting, patriotism-oriented mentality. Like, you got to apply wisdom to everything. You can't just be like, I support this automatically because I'm not a pussy hippie or whatever. Or on the flip side, I oppose this even if I'm a hippie. Like even if I'm told that hippies should support this, you gotta have that critical
hippies
thought.
for guns. Totally.
Yeah.
Check out JJ Embra, Truth and Transparency, True Crime Design, Casper West, Truth and Transparency, Andrea Buchart, Tommy Jude, and many channels on his case. Okay, well that's cool. So yeah, there seems to be some good people covering criminology.
You should also look up books and just email the authors. I heard like they actually respond. I mean,
yeah, they're lonely.
They're not as busy as we would assume.
Oh no, there is.
I did that pretty much any time in college. I had a book report. I
Yeah.
would write the author, especially if it was something like race, class, and gender.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be like, okay, who's this Susan?
I got words
Larson
for this
lady?
person.
Yeah, right. Like for sure. I've been kind of not thinking about America and like the corruption in America enough. Maybe I've been wandering around this Akiyamart website, you know, because I'm all about this whole move to Japan thing. I don't think I'm going to do it, but there's a sick part of me that just likes to think about it. Because you look at these houses for like $2,000, and I saw a house for like here's one, $348, right? Like that's less than rent for a lot of places. Just move in there until you want to leave and abandon it.
Well, I think if you had money, the best thing to do is just buy up these houses, fix it up, and sell it to stupid kids at a higher price.
In Japan, though, who wants to do like the thing is Japanese people don't want to live in their parents' houses. They're
you sell it to other gaijin, you know, instead of you being one of the gaijin, you sell houses to the gaijin.
It's a generational thing, though. It's a generational thing. Like the same thing happened out west. No one wanted to live in their hometown. No one wanted to live in their parents' places. But as the life progresses, people are like, oh, like our hometown isn't as bad as we thought. We explored the other parts and they're pretty much all the same. And then they eventually return to where they came from in some way or another. Could be in the next generation.
How long is it going to take for Japan, though? Because like in Japan,
could be the next generation.
You'd think they would already be there, though. In Japan, they have so much. They have internet. They have all this great technology, you know. But no, they're kind of dilapidated. They pay with cash, and they want to just sort of live in Tokyo. Like everybody just wants to live next to each other in Tokyo. 9 million empty houses. The rest of the country is just kind of abandoned.
It'll probably happen as a result of some sort of like problem that emerges from living in the city. That emerges once in a while, like a huge accident or a terror act, or like if the conditions of living in Tokyo become inadequate, people will recognize the value of living out in the country.
Yeah, Vincent, you're actually right about that. Like the matriarch of my family in America, which is my grandma, she moved back to Korea. So like she was the one who brought the family to America in the first place. And
she's like, I'm done. I did it. We're good.
She was like, fuck this. I'm going back. So I think you might be right there, Vincent. Well, at least from personal experience.
Does your grandma need a gaijin to like clean her lawn or something? I saw this house, $70. $70. You could buy a house for $70.
Just a garage, though.
That's fine. I mean,
that's all I would need. Just get
this is cool.
Just get a cool
car. Of course, $70 is crazy. Of course, yeah.
$70.
But there's something that happens at some point where people try to remember where they come from, and they seek out their ancestral story, even if that doesn't necessarily mean moving back to the place. At least, like I know a lot of Irish people who are like, oh, I'm third generation immigrant. And then they like, I want to go back to Ireland to know what it's like, what my ancestors, the place that they come from and everything. And so I think it's as part of the meaning crisis of living in cities and being overly saturated with people, you sort of like seek out that personal meaning, that meaning that is your legacy. And that does involve going back to where you came from. It's sort of a pilgrimage impulse, you know?
Do you think people are like, I mean, city people just seem kind of lonely though too, like isolated from each other. There's so many people that you take for granted. You end up not being with people. Like if you live in the country and there's not that many people there, you're gonna make friends with the first. You're like, oh my god, it's a person. Well, a person. How are you? What's your, But when you live in the city and there's tons of people, you take it for granted. I think that people are. Do you think that's an effect on this? Is they're hyper lonely? The metropolitan people are hyper lonely. Don't want to go.
I don't know if it's taking for granted so much that it is an overdose of people. You know.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like it's more like
so much dosage you can have. It's not even jaded. It's just there's only so many relationships you can actually have at once that are meaningful and actually have a connection. Because like if you meet, if you see 3,000 people every day, then like, yeah, of course you just have too much. It's kind of like an economic balance issue where if there's too much of a certain product, eventually it loses its value. Like you have to have no one needs 30 cars. You know, one car is valuable, but 30 cars just takes up room, and you got to like maintain 30. You know, it's a whole thing. So I really do think that it's just about people. There's too many people in one place for people to really connect anymore, and so it's hard to balance everything. You know, you can't care about everything all the time when you have so much.
I think they also take for granted what used to exist, or they're sick of it as well. So like you look at some of these houses, and you know these are kind of bad examples because they're super cheap and ugly and all that. But when you start to look on the inside, you can see what it means to be a Japanese house. And as time has gone by, this is built in 1977. So the newer the house, the uglier the house. Let's look. I mean, if you go back further, built in 1980, 1966. Let's go like 1900 or something, like older. You'll look at some of the older houses, 1959, 1966. I mean, basically the old houses don't have a single nail in them. They're just pieces of wood that are slid together. And the humidity and everything, they start to rot and fall apart. But they're so beautiful, right? And then they get to the point where they are sick of that beauty. They just want something that'll last. So Japan now, it's kind of becoming like IKEA. Like they're more and more fascinated by having Western boring block houses that kind of suck, you know? Like there's not a lot to these buildings that make them look Japanese. They don't look beautiful anymore. But that's what I think very quickly Japan's going to replace itself with, is these more durable and lasting brutalists, empty of the art.
Right.
Houses, you know?
Efficiency, right? Like they're trying to become more and more efficient, and at some point that is the meta game. You have to find that efficiency, but there is a balance to be struck, and I do think Japan is pretty good at balancing these things, because they do have a cultural legacy that's quite strong and an identity that they can really hold on to, and that is carried through culture. So much so that we absorb their culture. We go, hey, your culture is so good, ship that shit over here, and we're going to shape our children with it, you know?
They do the same with us. I mean, look up how much a Harley Davidson panhead costs in Japan, and it'll cost more than like, I know how much they cost here, and I know there's like a really big chopper culture in Japan, and there's a lot of dudes in Japan building panheads right now.
Well, there was actually a war between Harley Davidson and Japan at one point, because I mean the whole craze started with vets like GIs that came back to America, and since they rode Harleys in the service, they were like, yo, I'm just gonna get a Harley and trick it out. And then they started their own gangs like Hell's Angels. Did you know that the Hell's Angels is a publicly traded company? Like you could buy stock in Hell's Angels.
Yeah, they
really
can
crazy. Yeah. And so but then like they started getting a hitch, because like the buyer base of Harleys aged out, and kids didn't give a shit because like Hondas came into the picture.
Yeah.
And then like Hondas and Harleys were like at war. Fascinating shit, honestly.
Makes sense, because you know, like these are markets that are separate. So you're trying to create your own auto industry, your own motorcycle industry, and then you have Harley that comes in and goes, hey, you know, we're going to be the standard, but it creates a different cultural dynamic. Like even think like, okay, Yakuzas versus Hell's Angels. You know, like why would you want Harley to come into your country if it's going to attract motorcycle gangs and this sort of, you know, like these sort of gangs, while you have like a multi-generational organized crime syndicate that rules, you know?
See, that's the other thing. Like the Yakuza is disappearing, you know, because like they're all 80. Most of these guys in the Yakuza, there's basically 20% of what Yakuza was in the 1980s. They're basically gone. They basically don't exist anymore. And more you got these online like kind of like, I want to say, grinder for gangsters. There's these websites in Japan where it's like, do you want to get together and you want to F stuff up? You know, like they don't want to know each other necessarily, because it's really complicated to become part of a gang that wants to cut your finger off.
Yo, meet me at the soap house, bro.
Yeah, and they just end up having a program where it's like, well, I'm going to go do some online espionage or social engineering to rob something. Or if you're going to commit a crime, it's better to anonymize it and to create some sort of a group that can work together.
Well,
and then
you know,
disappear.
If you look at the evolution of organized crime in the West, you can see that for the most part, they go
They're
off into
like flash
legal.
mobs.
They go off into legal spaces instead. It's way better to have a huge amount of legal businesses, and then you can launder things, and you can actually have a lot of influence in culture, and then you put pressure on politicians, like all this stuff. So the Yakuza, like any crime syndicate or any crime group, is going to evolve and adapt to the environment that they're a part of, or else they will become obsolete. And violence as the cornerstone of organized crime is falling apart. It is not the same force that it was before, because now the governmental force is stronger than it ever was. The organization that is required to be a criminal is really, really, really complex, or else you just immediately get caught and that's it,
Matt, you know about the Altamont free concert? I assume you do, right? So Matt Terrell says the Hells Angels didn't ruin the festival culture. I think he is saying that maybe sarcastically. I assume you know about the concert that the Hells Angels were used as security for. It was supposed to be the Woodstock of the West, right? And they killed people. Like they were like they stabbed some people, they punched some people up. It was killing of Meredith Hunter and 3 accidental deaths from 2 hit-and-run car accidents and a drowning incident in an irrigation canal. Some pretty crazy stuff went on at the Altamont concert, So I don't know. Generally, the Hells Angels are remembered for that, but they've also done a lot of good too. I think that's the other thing, is that we kind of need in a lot of ways, the Hells Angels represent the militia. They're a kind of militia that was created because they're a community organization. They have their own values. They push for what they think is right. Honestly, they have corruption in as much as the police do. So it's not fair to say, oh, they're different than the police because they're more violent or they're more criminal or something like that. The police are equally as...
Organized crime has to have an honor system, or else it becomes too chaotic and you just get warlords, and that's just how it goes. So if you actually have a system that reins in the behavior of violent individuals, then yeah, you can even use it for benevolent purposes in the end. Drugs, prostitution, drugs, all the things that are organized crime oriented, like they exist in cultures no matter what. You can try to suppress it. You can try to cut it out like a tumor. It'll just come right back. And so the natural evolution, the rational thing to do is to control that opposition and to have people who are criminals with a sort of benevolence to them as well. Because you can't only have monsters. We just shove those people in prisons because they're just chaos,
Plus, law enforcement is usually incentivized to sort of like let certain things play out in pursuit of a bigger fish.
Sure.
And then at some point they just give up. They're like, okay, this is the biggest fish I'm willing to go after. Until like a case gets turned over to the FBI, and then it's like, oh, turns out the big fish is, It's like, well, they don't want to get mixed up with that, so.
Sure, but it's
cartel dudes. Fuck that. I wouldn't mess with a cartel guy.
The thing is, people, it's a business, right? And it's a power dynamic issue. So they have to play along with the criminals because they go, okay, if we just get rid of this person, they'll have a power vacuum, and then it'll be replaced by someone we can't control, and that we can't actually have not start gang wars or whatever, So they have to find that.
Why the CIA works with the cartels.
Well, the thing is that can be the starting point for that, but then once you get basically a criminal government, then like the sky's the limit for them. Like they just push the boundaries of what's ethical, and they have self-protecting systems, and then eventually you get monsters who are in charge, and there's nothing anyone can do about it.
Which is exactly
the wife of El Chapo. You can see Mossad's association with the cartels as well. She is hot, yeah.
It really does all go back to Mossad, doesn't it?
It really all does go back to Mossad.
It all starts with Yahweh.
Hells yeah.
It all goes back to Adam and Eve.
The law of one.
They speak it into existence, and thus it is.
I think it's also kind of people wrongfully associate the Jewish bankers, right? Where really banking is because of the Catholic Church, right? The Knights Templar ended up with promissory agreements, which the Christians were forbade from doing. So certain Jews were involved with banking. But a lot of the time, if you forbade people from doing something, like they're not allowed to have normal jobs, then organized crime is the way to go, right? So the idea of the Jewish American organized crime, a lot of the people will point to the Sicilians or the Italians and the mafia and kind of forget, like, a lot of these guys were Jewish, right? Like, I think Juan Ruben Batista sticks out, leader of Cuba, right? Am I doing this wrong? Wiki. Batista, first president of Cuba.
He does look like Batista.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of a general thing, probably, about the cartels. I don't know.
Well, you know,
really
the thing is,
which one? Who is?
oh,
El
the
Chapo?
wife. She looks like the guy from. She looks like that movie there. That terrible movie that came
Mac
out.
was like, that's a dude. I'm like, oh shit, did I just say a
No,
dude?
but
She
looks,
you know what?
Looks like,
trans
looks
chicks
like
are hotter
Pop.
than women can ever be because men are better at everything than women are. Hey,
Oh,
American
shit.
Time Machine, how are you? Good to see you. What's up, buddy?
What's up, hard R's? Great to see you all.
Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah, they used, like Trump used the N-word a lot recently. Nuclear. So what we wanted you here because you can ground us, like not like my parents, but like you can maybe have a grounding energy that can bring us to a good place. We're relying on
man.
you.
Good luck with that. You know, I was thinking I love the whole idea of owning stocks, and it's just because I like the idea of getting money every single quarter that I did not earn. That's what the stock market is
you
all
did
about.
earn it. You are a shareholder of a company, so therefore you are entitled to a certain dividend of the future receivables of said company.
Entitlement. We definitely don't have an entitlement problem, do we? No, it's yeah, clearly, I did lots of exhausting work to receive that dividend. It's hard work. It's hard work owning things. Let me tell you.
Well, it's hard work. It's hard work not spending money that you could spend.
Debatable. It's like,
Not if you can
I don't
afford to
know.
not spend it.
I mean, yeah, it is nice. So it's like, yeah. I don't want to get philosophical.
Amor, that was a
don't
joke.
get
If you couldn't tell, these are the jokes.
Whoa.
Sorry. Amor was really worried. She
Vincent.
thought that I was really promoting like trans misogyny.
Vincent, you're looking very Vikingly, I will say. You're
Vikingly.
Yeah, I'll say Vikingly. It's been a long time, and yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't feel very different, but thank you. You know, it's a huge compliment. You're looking very, I'm going to say, Gaelic.
Thank you.
I thought you were going to say vitamin D deficient, Kurt.
Mary and Gaelic.
No,
Well,
no.
you know.
It's really just the light that makes me this pale. I'm actually pretty dark skinned, so underneath all this hair.
Respect. Yeah, usually we're talking later. You're under like not natural light. I could see that.
Oh yeah.
Yo, Kurt, can you help us plan a pump and dump scheme on Hell's Angel stock?
That's
artificially.
I do not. I'm not part of this.
We'll go all in and tell
Minecraft.
everyone to buy it,
Minecraft.
and then sell it when the price is really high.
Let's buy stocks in the Yakuza and the Hells Angels.
Hell's
Oh my god! Or just like we need like disruptive help with the disruptive technology for the Yakuza replacement. Like I said, I mean, honestly,
What
a
we need is
grinder
a
for criminals.
psychedelic. We need a psychedelic crime syndicate.
Yeah, but I think just an app that helps you connect with other criminals sounds like a practical tool. You know,
right.
Like I want to. Yeah, but for people that want to rob banks together, I think
What about,
really that's a multi-million-dollar idea.
What about
I think it's
sponsor a
brilliant.
criminal? Like there's a criminal who's short on cash, and you as the sponsor could buy his gear, buy his ski mask, buy his
Oh
gun,
my god!
buy his
Bro.
car. You know,
Make them have like all the sponsors on there.
yeah.
Like NASCAR, yeah.
A stock black market. So that way you could slush all of these things together, invest in the entities. That, you know what I mean? It's like,
Let's
why?
start a
rainbow market.
Let's start a white market.
White
I like
collar
rainbow
crime-
market because it'd be the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
Diversity market.
Spectrum. Speaking of Spectrum, how you doing, Andreas?
I'm killing. Ouch.
I'm kidding.
No, that's fair.
Just kidding. It's
I don't know.
okay.
I'm
So
emotionally
give me a
anxious.
little bit of time. Just give me a little bit of time, and
Yeah, you're working the socks and socks.
in like 2 weeks, I should know. Like maybe I can actually go take a countrywide visit during this July. It should be a lot of fun. We can come down to Santa Cruz and avoid all the homeless people and take a visit to Andreas. And
Maybe I'm already in Germany again. Who knows if I'll ever come back home? You know, who knows if I have a home? Is home even real? Like, does home exist? Like, do you feel home when you're where you're
I
from?
feel like America's my home.
Yeah, see, I wish I felt that way about places. I feel like I need to run away to some home that has been abandoned by a Japanese, you know, the children of somebody who died in Japan. I need to take over like an abandoned Akia of some basically the parents died. They wanted their kids to care, and their kids just live in Tokyo and don't even like want to take care of their shrine. That seems like my home.
You have the impulse of a colonizer, of a great man, of a great explorer / conqueror.
Way to turn that into my criticism into a compliment. I appreciate that. Don't you want to spend like a couple $100 and buy a house in Japan instead of
Andreas, you should go impregnate some Japanese women.
Yeah, do it. That's the fastest way.
Here's my problem. I love Japan, but I don't know if I want to do that.
Is it better to make bastards or to end your bloodline?
I just don't like English people because they're from an island, and I'm concerned that Japanese people are not that different from English people. They have bad teeth.
All humans are pretty much the same. So
see, that's the truth. I want a robot, maybe. I think that might be the deal.
Look, if you can get a robot to breed with you, go for it. But we need more little Andreases running around.
Yeah, it could be.
I think what I'm picking up is that your issue with Japan is that they're like a socially acceptable ethno state.
I like that about Japan. I have no problem with that. I want to let them continue being what they are. I don't think it's going to last, though. I think that's a major reason for anime is that they know that that's coming, and they're trying to prepare Japanese people to become European, because very quickly they're going to have to, right? Hafus are the future of Japan. There's not a lot of Japan left, you know? They can't just...
It is a small island.
It's like England, you know, but instead of with Pakistani people, it's going to be with European people because we watched all this anime. And it's definitely part of the propaganda, because how crazy is that to go from bombing and destroying their people and their shrines to watching so much anime that we're hypnotized into moving into their old homes and cleaning the floors and replacing the tatami mats because we want to be Japanese cartoons, right? That's pretty good propaganda.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Japanese people are they're great at everything. They can borrow culture from any subculture in the US or anywhere else and do it better than those people ever will. Like there's
no driving jokes.
I think a big part of that is
because
culturally in Japan, like on their day-to-day on your day-to-day for an average Japanese person, they don't really get that many opportunities to express themselves. So when they get into things like art or cars or whatever it is, like they go super duper hard into it because it's one of the very few opportunities in their life probably that they get to like fully express themselves.
It's funny to see actually, like there's, you see Japanese youths who are in the US and they express themselves so much, like, just the breakdancing culture, like we see Japanese kids doing it and you're just like, holy fuck, you people are like incredible. And like they embrace that sort of individualism that is denied to them in Japan normally.
Maybe it used to be that way. I don't know.
Yeah, well, breakdancing isn't as popular as it was either, So.
Well, I mean, shoot, they're even doing like 50s rockabilly culture way better than the U.S. is. There's like, they've perfectly replicated Southeast LA like cholo culture.
Yeah, that's always a funny thing, right? I have like friends in like American bands, and they go on tour, and then they get educated further. Like it's like the people in like Argentina know more about punk rock than they do, you know, and because they're like that much more into it.
Yeah, that's true. I think that the less you're from a thing, the more you can, like, you can't see your own nose, you know? So there's something that's lost in translation, but you find it, and Japan's really good at finding something that we don't even recognize about the thing because it's so taken for granted. That's definitely true about their rockabilly obsession, and
Yeah.
it's also true about their obsession with baseball. You know how Japanese people are
Yeah.
better at baseball than anyone else because they're
Yeah.
like ninjas. You know, when they pitch, you don't have any idea what they're going to do with that ball because it's like way over here, and they have no. And originally, how did Japan get into baseball? They were destroyed. Their ideology was defeated. You know, they wiped cities from the face of the earth, and the American military were playing with baseball. So they picked up one of the baseballs off the ground, and some Japanese guy took the baseball apart, stitched it back together, took it apart again, stitched it back together, did this like hundreds of times until they just understood what a baseball was on a level that no one in America has ever really, except for the guy who invented the baseball, you know, in the time. So they took it from a level that the understanding from such a deep core. It's like how many
Yeah.
little bumps are there on the ball of your basketball? Like somebody had to count those bumps to understand it on a level that no basketball player even understood.
Yeah, maybe I think it is like a gratitude thing. You know, we take all these things for granted, and you know, it's like language. Even it's like we'll misspell something, and they're like, we'll perform all these typos because we take language for granted. Meanwhile, the Japanese are like, "Did you mean this? Is this what you meant by your misinterpretation of the thing that you're using that you technically invented and don't know how to use anymore? That we understand better than you?"
Kurt, is there a way to find value in things more effectively? Like, how do you find the true value of something?
You start with an assumption.
Really?
You start with an assumption. You start with an assumption of what value is. But yeah, if we start from an assumption, then we can figure out. We can figure out how we inherently value things on that assumption. That doesn't. That sounds like it doesn't even make sense. But
no,
like,
it does. It seems weird to me because the assumption. Oh, go ahead.
Well, like with a baseball, like what is the value of learning? You know, what a baseball is. What is the value of learning everything there is to know about this inanimate object that can be thrown and hit? Potentially, there's an advantage, a type of advantage to be gained while you play the game. And so if you inherently value winning and defeating your fellow man, then you're going to say, every advantage I gain is a good thing. So if you don't value that, well, then who really cares? But so now we have an assumption. We can start with an operating assumption on our.
Wait, can I interject with one thing? I have a piece to add as to why baseball, what is baseball as a sport. I think one of the biggest appeals to it, it's like drag racing. You know, it's like at some point when you get to the highest levels of a game, you're really just trying to like mess around with the delta, the statistics. You know, it's like how often does this player really get on base, regardless of how often the team wins or like who the best player is. Like how often does this person actually land a hit, regardless of if they're all like grand slams or not. So I think like the Japanese can really hone in on and dial in on the deltas of things like, you know, racing or baseball or something like that. So anyway, sorry to interrupt.
It's okay. So, I mean, we can continue this topic if you like, but I mean, it's like, if you want to make assumptions, you can play on those assumptions, of course.
I think it's like I don't know. Assumption's a weird one for me, but I think it's also about the way somebody looks at something. So a blind person's going to feel something more, and maybe someone who can see is going to look at it more. Maybe you like want to see what you can do with the baseball more than you want to see what a baseball is made of. You know about the tin toy thing in Japan in World War II? We gave them all these cans, right? and they pounded the cans that the American military gave them of Spam and whatever food they had into super cool robots and stuff. They took these cans and they made like these like toy robots that were they sold them back to Americans because kids wanted to play with these toy robots. I actually know some people that still have some of these like super amazing looking fun toys, but they're just made out of the tin that was left over from the tin cans. And a lot of stuff in Japan is like that, like repurposing and reuse. The pachinko machine is a great example because it's you start out with a military grade amount of ball bearings and figure out what can you do with ball bearings, right? And there's this algorithm that was pretty important for chaos magic, pachinko algorithm.
I lost my wife to pachinko.
Yeah, it happens. It does. People really do. Pachinko algorithm. Well, here's a natural language processing. So this might actually be what I'm talking about. The pachinko allocation model. So the random connection of where something's going to fall, essentially, and the probability that something is going to fall. Pachinko machines have changed a lot. I actually think the oldest ones are the best. Like, look at this one here, and you can see it. Basically, you do not want to take too much acid and stare at a 1970s pachinko machine because you're going to get consumed by the spirit of a insectoid from the interdimensional plane of existence. But trust me, I've been there. But I think that's the thing about it is like assumptions are scary because what do you think about that expression? Never assume. Because it makes an ass out of you and me, right?
Is it really like trying to guess something, or is it like taking the first baby steps towards actually consciously manifesting an intentional reality? I mean, when you talk about like, I guess, collapsing probabilities and whatnot.
Oh my God.
And that has to start with what? Like an intention, like some emotional intention or some emotional stimulus that drives you to act or even think about acting. And that's like your first steps. Yeah.
No, sorry, go ahead. I'm surprised because it means assumption comes from the Latin term assumptio, which means a taking up, receiving, acceptance, or adoption. So basically, you ought to assume because assumptio is the first step of gratitude, referred to the uncorrupted reception of the Virgin Mary into heaven.
And what really blocks us from like that kind of thing, like to assume the reality that you ultimately like even want. And it's like usually our own blockages, right? It's like you can't really do a good job at crafting a future for yourself if you're constantly worried about, say, scarcity, like or guilt, or you're angry about something. Like these things are what cloud your clarity. So you can't properly assume, like you can't properly like manifest or do some Mason work or some shit.
Kurt, assumptions, assumptio, Mother Mary into heaven being assumed. Is that what you were going at? Is that what you're trying to say?
Freaking A. That sounds divine, not just metaphorically, but literally. Sounds literally divine. And that's pretty cool, I would say. But so I think a great assumption is that we were placed here by God and Jesus and Mary. And life every day, every breath is just like an amazing, awesome thing and an amazing, awesome opportunity. So if you start with that assumption in your life, I think everything totally transforms its nature before your eyes. It's pretty cool. And so that's why yeah, it's why I think you can find yourself being happier, or we'll say more enlightened, more fulfilled wherever you are in life than people who actually have a lot of power, theoretically have a lot of power. It's like, I don't think power makes necessarily people more fulfilled. So it's like, why would you want to be the president of the US, theoretically a very powerful dude, or why would you want to be Vladimir Putin or a celebrity? I think there's a lot of I think the way we've come to define celebrity right now as of 2025, I think there's a lot of negative connotations with it that like kind of stunts people's growth a little bit. It's like when they transition into that celebrity status, cue all the Katy Perry memes when she came back from space, it's it really is something. But I don't know, just
two thoughts on that.
Go ahead.
So first one, you ever think about this? I was thinking about this the other day. How like the air in your lungs has been there before you existed, and you inhaled air that was already there in a sense. There's already like, and then you're gonna exhale that air. It's only in you for a moment, but you exhale that, and then something else is gonna have that air. And you're just made up of like dust and dirt. You're stardust, right? We say, because that sounds cool, but really you're a sandcastle. We're just sandcastles, We're just like sandcastles that had this old ancient primordial breath put into us, and then it's gone. And you can do that so many times. You can only do that so many times, though. You know what I mean? Like, do you ever think about that? How you're a sandcastle filled with God's breath?
Yes. Oh, I mean, I never. That's a beautiful way to put it, I think. But
We're all Jewish golems.
I was thinking earlier today about I was using Legos in that same analogy, just a bunch of Legos constantly getting recombined into different shapes. But yeah, I like
The
the
ships of
sandcastle one.
Sisyphus. But I have one thought. When it comes to celebrity, I think we've lost touch because the point of celebrity was to celebrate, right? Like that's why it's the word is what it is. It was to celebrate the individual, to celebrate culture. And now our current celebrities are dog water. They it doesn't make sense. If you ask what an influencer is famous for, they have no answer. They haven't done anything to deserve celebrity. They just go on and they have a lot of views because basically it's a cult of personality. They have a personality that people are attracted to without actually having contributed anything to culture beyond, say, Twitch streaming or playing someone else's creation or commenting on someone else's creation. And it's like a feedback loop. We're having a feedback loop effect in our culture where our celebrities are people who just talk about the other stuff in our culture, and then we're just in an echo basically that's constant. So I think we need to upgrade, and we need basically to celebrate the people who are beyond the norm instead of fabricating the norm, instead of pretending that they're beyond the norm just through Hollywood deception and like cultural padding that we add to people. And
all right, let's set a baseline. Well, is there any actors you actually think is like are actually good, like performers in cinema movies?
Look, it depends what you mean by good.
George W. Bush was pretty good.
Yeah, no, but you see, depends what you mean by good. If by good you mean effective at what they do, that's
he's
one
believable.
Thing.
You'd almost believe he was actually stupid, even though he went to Yale.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that's it. Those are the highest level actors in the world.
Theo Von, all these people are royals, myself included. I think this is the thing that's kind of weird about it. Like you look at the Theo Von is, what is his deal? He seems like he's this dumb schmuck of a guy who's an everyman. Is he an everyman?
No.
What's his name? What's Theo Von's name? Von what? Theo Von Kurnatowski. It says right here, he's of the Kurnatowski-Śląska noble family of Poland with the freaking peacock feathers. Are you surprised? You shouldn't be.
Not at all. He's part. Look,
he's hanging out with Bush and Trump and doing. Yeah.
If you look at his backstory, like he was part of a cult at some point. So like he actually has seen a lot of things. He's been around. He's not a dumbass, but he knows how to play. A lot of these
celebrities are just royal people. It seems like a lot of the not just celebrities. What do you call it? Influencers. A lot of influencers are noble-blooded.
The thing is that we're a lot of us, a lot of people are part of bastard bloodlines that just come from the monarchies of different countries because these people were fucking everything and they were spreading their bloodlines everywhere. Like there's a reason that story is part of our culture and it's ingrained in so many of us of the forgotten prince who comes from nowhere and he's the heir to the throne. It's because that is true. It's actually part of our culture. There were a bunch of Genghis Khans throughout history. We're all related to these grandiose figures that somewhere down the line were the evolutionary, like they were the ones that basically created an influx of generations that spread out into a whole bunch of trees, branches of their family tree. We're all connected, and maybe that's connected to how NPC someone is. I don't know, Like the
Wait,
more
Andrew's vibe on this because he's definitely related to slaves and kings. Go ahead.
I'm peasant
I'm
stock.
starting
for
to
sure.
see I'm starting to see the Mufasa movie in a completely different way now.
I won't see it.
Like,
So
you have not seen it.
You already
I
saw
won't.
it. It's literally just the story of Moses. Go ahead.
Yeah. The adopted son actually being more powerful than the one who's born noble. Taking the noble born's place, just out of because he's superior or whatever. Um, that's just really interesting for Disney to be putting something out like that, giving Mufasa that, and Scar especially, that kind of a backstory, like how maybe the villain, even though the villain might be born or like supposedly destined to succeed, that the good-natured adopted orphan could possibly be the one who is.
I mean, the whole point is,
Right.
like you said, there's a flood, right? So there's this like deluge thing, and he's the Jewish heir, right? Mufasa's the Jewish heir who takes over Egypt. It's the story. That's kind of the deal. It's Moses.
Yeah.
He's in the basket, and he ends up the main king. But that doesn't mean he doesn't come from royalty. In fact, when you think about it, all lions kind of must come from the same place. Yeah. There must be originally like a primordial, lion. So what's it mean to
from
be
a different tribe?
What is that like? Who is
it always
different
depends.
tribe? The Jewish tribe. It's like the Unter lion and the Uber lion are still from the same lion pack at some point.
It all depends how far back you go, because every single person that's alive right now comes from an evolutionary success story. And that evolutionary success stories means that their ancestors were incredible people. It's the unincredible that don't reproduce, that fail. They become forgotten genetically. Their bloodlines get eliminated. So it is important to recognize where you actually come from. You come from thousands and thousands of years of successful evolution, of successful reproduction, of successful survival in conditions we can't even imagine. And we're trying to undersell that. And I think that's really what colonization is about. It's about removing that sort of legacy, forgetting where you're from, forgetting the actual greatness of your bloodline, and turning to this banal thing that you're just supposed to give up. And who am I? I'm just some guy who survived and my parents fucked, and that no. You come from a long chain of basically demigods.
Aggressive, horny people.
Sure. But in a sea of aggressive, horny people, heroes must rise, because the alternative is the least among us start just taking over everything. And our ancestors did survive basically against those odds.
I think we grew up in a generation
great but terrible
of unsuccessful reproduction. I think we see lots of examples of unsuccessful reproduction, and you're just like, oh man, that's those poor children. But
sure, yeah, those have always happened. Those have always existed, and they just don't reproduce. That's just always been the case. It's not like if it's new that there's people who are infirm or who are handicapped or any of this. This has always been the case, but now we protect them. Now we shelter them, and we must, we must basically give them as many rights as possible. Never been the case in the past, and there's consequences to that. It could be part of our ascension. It could be that learning how to treat these people with more than what we did before is a major step towards our collective ascension. But it comes with consequences. You can't glorify the handicap.
Well, regardless, I think no matter what,
eugenic mania.
I'm
the opposite. I'm the opposite of eugenic. I'm eumemic. I believe in good memes over good genes.
It's not
what actually matters. You're right. It's more like correlated.
I think.
I never learned about Lysenkoism until just this week.
Personally, I think bloodlines are just like transit lines for souls.
Maybe.
because like they're necessary. I mean, for a soul to incarnate and like have a human experience, you need to come from somewhere for like physically, like a body, and for a soul to inhabit. And I think like all transit lines, you're going to see flaws in it. You're going to see potholes. You're going to see cracks in the road. And it's probably up to you who use these transit lines to kind of help fix it. I think that's like, if there is a point to life, like one thing that's on our to-do list is to try to fix some of your generational bullshit. Because we all have them. We all have some like generational curse that we could probably have end with us in one way or another. And I think like, yeah, that's probably like one assignment if we're given any, you know,
family trees prune themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a lot. I think that's a viable outcome. Like if your family line is beyond repair and you're just like saying, you know what, fuck it, I don't want to do this anymore, I want it to end with me.
You know, I think the problem with that is that it's essentially the same thing as genocide. It has the same end result as genocide. And so if you convince people that, yeah, just end it with their bloodline, you get the same thing as killing those people minus the violence, because the bloodline just ends with them. And so I think that the thing is that the pruning will happen on its own. We don't need to meme our way there. We don't need to rationalize our way there. You either fail or you succeed. And so to go and rationalize your way out of breeding, you know, I think that can be dangerous. But it could be that, like, you know, nothing in the universe is really wasted. Data just recycles. Everything just recycles. So all the branches that get pruned, you know, like you said, it could be just a soul transference system. And so it could be that they just get recycled into a new collective soul that forms a new branch in some other tree, you know, like I don't think that God throws away souls because they decided to stop breeding or something.
Yeah, I mean, you just use a different transit line, you know?
Yeah. So, you know,
there's someone who's tracking the genealogy of serial killers and finding that they have like this one common ancestor.
Cain. It's Cain. It's always been Cain.
I forget who it is. It's some noble person.
But that's literally the biblical story.
Yes. No. Yeah. No. And we're all born of sin. I get that.
Well, you know, the thing is, Cain and Abel, right? Cain is the brother that killed Abel, and then from then on, God was like, "Hey, don't go to this side."
Cain is not Adam's son. Cain is Lucifer's son. But what were you trying to say, Kurt?
I was going to say, Andreas, you seem like a person that could go on an extended rant about Lysenkoism.
It could happen.
When I was first reading, I was like, it sounds a little bit crazy and also a little bit based at the same time. Okay, so basically genetics was banned in Russia. I think it was like in the 1940s. Like this guy named Lysenko, he gained a lot of political power and then started.
You can tell this guy had some pretty nice genes too. You know. Sorry, go ahead.
Look at that jawline. It's like a skin right over the skull bones. It's. I mean, it's also pseudoscience. But essentially, like, they were positing that while genetics is kind of a lie, what gets passed on to generation basically is nothing but expressive traits. Like, basically, I think a metaphor could be like your actions dictates what can be passed among, well, not even genetic material, because they weren't even like thinking in that sense. It's like the traits that end up in the baby are all a result of, like, well, I guess it's like almost like willpower. I'm not reading this definition. This is all from memory, but I'm sure you could bring up a Wikipedia page. Maybe this is the more entertaining way, but yeah, it's
also
it's definitely contrary
influence.
Oh, it's
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely contrary to basically all of our, you know, canon understanding of the way genetics work today. But, you know, maybe the positive side is like, well, that's probably a perspective that would not have been explored so thoroughly had not they been that guy in Russia at the time been so extreme about it. So I think, you know, that's always the fun side of extremism, in my opinion. It's like, well, what can you learn when shit gets a little wild?
So Jean-Baptiste Lamarck was a major influence at the time. Before Darwin, there was this idea that conscious evolution is occurring because we're making choices that actually affect our DNA. And then Darwin said, no, that's not true. There's really just sort of like uber genes and unter genes. And we're basically dealing with phenomenon of mutations that society, I mean, this is when cultural Darwinism becomes important. It's like, who's to say that this is a valuable mutation? Well, the economy, right? If this mutation is valuable, we'll notice it in the economy. And so there will be cream of the crop that rises to the top. And so Jean-Baptiste Lamarck's an idiot, right? Well, wrong, of course. Now we know Jean-Baptiste Lamarck was far closer to the truth than Darwin ever was, because he talked about essentially what we now refer to as epigenetics, that there are epigenetic changes that happen and that we have conscious ability to affect mutation in our DNA. The DNA is not randomly mutating. This is something that we now, I mean, transgender ideology is essentially based on eumemic. Yeah, you're right. It's a eumemic idea that's completely true. And what's a good eumemic example we talked about earlier? Education, right? Education, because you can educate someone, you can teach them how to move, even not just learning how to read and write, which is valuable, but sword fighting, Chris. This can, I mean, if you're a sedentary character, this is going to have epigenetic changes that make your generations of couch potatoes. And you can see even with the worst of conditions and what we did to Jewish people in Europe in the 15th century, that with Israel, within 1 to 2 generations, they've become super soldiers in a lot of circumstances. It's amazing how clean you can make your genes just by eumemic behavior. So genes are not the only thing that define you, even if they're important. They're not the only thing that define you.
It's environment, but also internal environment, you know.
And again, the economy of eumemic changes. So what did Lysenko lead to? I would say to the Belyaev domesticated fox, right? So the domesticated silver fox, one of the most fascinating things that happened in Russia to me. So do you know about this, Kurt? Did we already talked about this before? Do you know what I'm talking about here? Essentially,
I didn't know this was in the 70s. I knew they domesticated foxes, but I thought it was more of a recent phenomenon.
Sort of. It definitely continued on. So originally, because they were anti-eugenics, they didn't want to domesticate foxes because of eugenics, but they were just breeding foxes for the purpose. Belyaev was breeding foxes for the purposes of better fur, right? This is allegedly what he told the state, but that's not what he did at all. What he actually did was found the most friendly foxes, and he facilitated the breeding of the friendly foxes and didn't breed the less friendly foxes. And as he bred foxes that had a more human-friendly trait, changes started to emerge. Now we know, thousands of genes shifted. At the time, all we could tell was that the foxes started to look more and more like dogs. They had more friendly faces, cuter noses, bigger eyes, but this happened rapidly. This happened just maybe within 20 generations, six to 20 generations, and even just 2 or 3, 4, it became extremely noticeable that these foxes went from being kind of wild animals to being kind of friendly animals that you could trust and you could really say these are cute animals. And it's just, how did this happen?
It happened to people, dude. Just look at the 80s. Like you see 20-something-year-olds in the 80s and they were all like mustache men. You know, they look like fucking adults. Now you look at a 20-year-old and they look like children. I think it's kind of like an epigenetic thing, right? It's like if your environment facilitates just neotenous traits and just infinite childlike behavior, then that's probably going to manifest within a generation or two.
Sure, but you know, it's not just childlike behavior. It's also a slower unfoldment of, I guess, the hormonal system that we have, because like the fox in nature has to have a certain hormone level in order to live in the certain way that it has, and it has to have a hormone level of a certain way in order to live in the context with humans. Same for humans. Let's say you have a wartime group. Well, they're constantly being pumped full of adrenaline and other hormones that are going to make them more warrior-like. But at the same time, those genes are here in us. We have them in our environment here. Like if you go and train in swordsmanship, well, right there, you're unlocking that gene within yourself that allows you to access that potential. Apparently, and the problem is that the stress is the great accelerator of aging. So the more stress something has, the grayer it gets faster, the faster that it's going to lose everything. But in that period, it will be stronger than those that don't have that stress.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that shift triggers a lot like easier than you would think. Like, for example, statistically, like if you're a young man and say you lose your father at like a younger age than like most guys do in their older years, you do physically age faster. Like your body just triggers something that forces like kind of like aging in your features. I think that's pretty interesting. You know, it's like you said, stress. That's literally what it is. Imagine the stress of like suddenly you are your own source of wisdom, you know, because your dad's gone. And then that's gonna it's gonna psychosomatically trigger physical changes and add lines to your face.
You know, I've known
a bunch of serial killers can trace their ancestry to like 3 families on the Mayflower. Yeah.
1 second though. It's just I remember that like I knew some kids in high school that only actually hit puberty around 17, 18. Can you imagine that like 1,000 years ago? Like you're a 13-year-old, every other kid is sprouting fucking adulthood level, and then you're just like still a kid for another like 7 years. It must have been a nightmare.
Right. And we got to phone a friend really quickly. Donald sent this message. Here, hold on.
Dude, Karen Reed's case is ridiculous. It's not just that, like, there might have been an altercation. It's like the cops who killed her boyfriend, who was also a cop. Her boyfriend was bit by their dog. The prosecution, the lead investigator has been fired from the state police for his conduct in this case. They were searching her phone for nudes of her. They were saying that they wished she would just kill herself. They were collecting evidence in red Solo cups. Prior to doing this, they blew off the scene with a leaf blower to remove the snow. There was no chain of custody. It's corrupt as fuck. I can't believe that it's being tried a second time. I guess it's just because a cop died, right? But even this second case, the judge is showing a clear bias against Karen Reed. And she's not like a great person. She comes off as kind of a bitch, but she definitely didn't kill her boyfriend. The state's theory is that while backing out of the driveway, she hit him with her SUV so hard that he flew through the air and landed on his face on top of his cell phone in the snow. And they're saying that was a murder even. They're trying to get murder for this, right? So there are no bruises in his body. There are no broken bones. He's got a dog bite on his arm. They're attributing the marks of the dog bite to the broken tail light from the car. They're like, yeah, the tail light cut his arm when she hit him. So that's his only injury, except for like some blows to the head, which could have come from hitting the ground, right? There's no fucking way. There's no fucking way on the planet. And I think I heard the other day someone say that the state might have changed the theory a little bit to she hit him with the SUV while she was backing out, and then he stumbled a few steps and then fell on his face in the snow after pulling out his phone or something like this. It's all ridiculous.
I think it's also worth noting that there was offensive wounds on the knuckles of one of the cops who probably beat him to death. And he said it was because he dropped his phone and he caught himself on the ground with a closed fist. Karen Reed's lawyers then got in a primate expert, like a gorilla expert, and said no primate will ever instinctually catch themselves with a closed fist, and gorillas walk around on their knuckles. And even when catching their balance, they will not catch themselves on their knuckles. So the fact that like her lawyers brought in a primate expert, anyway, it's a clusterfuck, and it's in Massachusetts. So like when you're watching the footage, the accent's super heavy. It's kind of grating, but
Dude.
But yeah.
Boston police corrupt. That's just, I don't know, man. That's a conspiracy theory right there.
Daisy movie.
In the name of the Father.
The
I don't know.
Departed.
Oh, The Departed. That's right. Yeah. Or wasn't there another one too, like about like Boondock Saints?
That's not
Right?
Scorsese, but yeah, no, there's definitely. But
No.
Austin's ripe for corruption.
And that show Cheers. Yeah. Rest in peace, George Wendt. Well, okay, we're at the 2-hour mark. Is there anything you wanted to say before I push us into being grateful with Chris?
I'm good. You already said it for me. Thank you all.
No, but like seriously, being grateful is really important. I think that's like the most important thing. You say it every time. How should we be grateful? What do you think? I mean, that's a major point we should focus on. I agree with
Well,
that. It's hard.
That's the funny part about gratitude. I mean, it's the most unbelievable part, I think. Like, let's say you're having the shittiest day in the world, and let's say you say it out loud, even sarcastically, like, "Oh, I'm thankful for this shitty day," or "I'm thankful for this cigarette." Yo, life does turn around even after that. It's as simple as just the will to express some kind of gratitude, whether it's prayer, whether it's saying thank you, whether it's it's just that simple. Can't forget how to do that, you know?
It's legit. That's legitimate. I'm gonna stop saying legit. I'm too big for legit. Legitimate. That's legitimate. Kurt, what about you? You got any feels? Got any vibes?
Ooh, none that are appropriate for the stream, but I want to. No, I'm serious. I want to take a big long trip here in July. I think that'd be fun, and I don't know. Hopefully, I'm just kind of vibing in my life right now. I guess there's. I just hope. I think I get bored sometimes. You know, like that's the real trick. Is like you got to balance the adventure with grinding in your 9 to 5. So yeah, I think that's one thing. Maybe there's a lot of cultural imbalance that we have, but I'm looking to offset that with the appropriate amount of risk and danger. That's a whole other topic. All right, let's extend the podcast by about 15 minutes here.
Okay.
Like now, sometimes I think about how much it would suck to be a business owner. Don't get me wrong. So I think the standard in the United States is if you're a business owner, you just have to be like just a lazy piece of shit that only looks at bottom line numbers. It's like, oh, can I sustain all of my flights to my international flights to other countries while bitching at my employees on group chats? That seems to be what the standard is, but. Honestly, a lot of people that are in charge, I think they remain unfulfilled in a lot of ways. And I think part of that is because if you're at all any sort of decent business owner, you at least live in the same zip code as your business, so you can like keep an eye on it and keep it running. So like what if you just had a lump sum of money and you could control your spending habits, as opposed to being a business owner that wanted to keep their business open for 20 years. 20 years is a lot to sacrifice of your life to be in one place and have this big blanket of security, like, oh, I'm going to be alive and have all this money. It's like I think there are significant drawbacks to that. Of course, there's real bad drawbacks to being at the bottom of the rung and thinking that you always have to like try to work yourself up to the next rung, and this delusion that is climbing the corporate ladder. Well, that doesn't fucking exist anymore. But like, of course, yeah, that sucks. But if you're able to see through that and have more freedom, there's like that YouTuber who was the outdoors guy. He's like, yeah, I'm retiring because I don't want to do this anymore. He's totally free now. That's amazing. Like I think a lot of people want to do that. They just quietly want to leave and like do their own thing. And you can only do that if you're not, if you give up the reins of either the things that you own, or you put yourself in a position where you have that power without necessarily, owning a business or controlling other people. So I think all things said and done, it might just be better, just to have theoretically a lump sum of money and say, oh, I'm just going to go do what I want. You know, I'm going to build myself an escape hatch to do what I want in the world. I think that might be a better plan, you know, than all this hustle culture that's out there. So there's so much that could be said about that. So sorry we don't have a 3-hour podcast going, but yeah, that's been on my mind recently.
I'll bring you on for a one-on-one. We can do another hour pretty soon. I also want to make sure Vince gets a second. Vince, what are you thinking about before we leave?
I guess my thought of the week is that the problem with a lot of communities and a lot of demographics currently is pride, because pride is the breeding ground for narcissism, and narcissism justifies everything. And so we need to analyze our pride and not let it take over us like a symbiote. Basically, we have to be able to be wise in pride if we're going to have it at all. And that's what I was thinking. That was my thought of it.
I agree with that on a hardcore level. Narcissism is super dangerous. The other part is that most things that we would diagnose other people with are things we recognize in ourselves. That's been something, you know,
of course,
see you out there. What about you, Vega?
I feel like I wanted to piggyback off of what Chris was saying. You know, gratitude, you know, is having a great attitude, and it's easier to like fake your way, having a false sense of confidence into like succeeding, than it is to sort of like be overly cautious. That is to say, you can channel a version of yourself that already has the confidence to accomplish the thing that you're trying to do until you get there. And before you know it, you will be that person that you were, you know, maybe for some time only pretending to be, and that idea of you will have taken roots by, you know, doing this false confidence thing, using that to get to the point where you're actually the person. And that's like a progressive thing. And I was just laying in bed the other day thinking about like, oh wow, it's like thinking about all the different versions of myself that like I was sort of performing until I actually became that person, outgrew the role, and then figured out like this new sort of idea of myself that I had to maybe perform as until I actually was that person, and so on and so forth. Not to like misrepresent yourself or be inauthentic, but it's easier to fail upwards if you have a positive attitude.
That's beautiful. All right. I want to say also from the bottom of my heart that I love you all. You guys are some of the best people in the world. And this show is super weird to me. It's like this is a weird one to do because we're not like, it's not really like a news show. It's not really a synchromistic show. This is more of a like, there's something deep about this to me though. And I really appreciate what we're doing. It's like whatever this is feels really important to me. So I'm really grateful that you're coming back here and that we're having these conversations. And from the look of it, I feel like it helps people. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm
Hell
wrong.
yeah.
I could be wrong.
Dr. Chris is in the house.
I think
we're
a
community.
I think there's something to processing something live like this and modeling how to process this. And yeah, this to me is really important. And at very least, I'm grateful that we're doing this. So thank you for helping me have something.
That's why we keep coming back, you know? It's important to us too.
Dude.
Thanks for making
Apple Jacks don't taste like apples. Advanced philosophy memes. See you guys.